Welcome back to The Bible is Art, where we're in a series on a Christian guide to beauty and design. And if you haven't seen the other videos, I would check the playlist I've linked in the description. But if you're ready, this week we're talking about hierarchy. Hierarchy is one of the most important aesthetic principles, but it is today the most forgotten. And hierarchy is not just a principle in aesthetics, but it's a principle in all of reality. Wikipedia says hierarchy is an important concept in a wide variety of fields, such as philosophy, mathematics, computer science, organizational theory, systems theory, and social sciences, especially political philosophy. And they even left out a bunch of fields like ethics, theology, and science. For instance, the main taxonomy in biology that we all learned in high school is a hierarchy: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Or the hierarchy of atoms that make up molecules, that make up chemicals. Each of those are a different level in the compositional hierarchy. You also have hierarchy between the sciences. It's a hierarchy of the size of the object of study. So physics studies the smallest constituents of reality, then chemistry, then biology, and so on and so forth. And within each of those sciences, there are more hierarchies. And even more broadly, life is hierarchical. You start in the morning and go to night. You do things first and then second. Bodies are hierarchically designed. The head, with the brain and the eyes and mouth and ears, are hierarchically primary. Then the midsection, containing the hands and torso, and then the legs. And when things get out of their proper hierarchy, say the belly gets too large, then you have problems. In life, an improper hierarchy occurs when you focus, for instance, too much on your job and not on your family, prioritizing a lesser task when a greater task should have hierarchical importance. Jesus tells the Pharisees that their moral hierarchy is unbalanced. They tithe dill, mint, and cumin, but neglect the weightier, hierarchically more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. There's a hierarchy in music. For instance, when the drummer is playing too loud, or the orchestral section playing the harmony drowns out the section playing the melody. So hierarchy is a property in every aspect of life. But let's get to some definitions. Hierarchy is when the different parts or elements in a composition have an order. In a visual composition, like a painting or a page from a catalog, this means that the elements have been designed to guide the eye as to what should be looked at first, second, and third, or however many elements there are. That is, by using size, color, position, texture, or identifiers like arrows and pointers, you create order. And this visual order should correspond to the internal order, that is, the order of the content itself. For instance, on a poster for a play, the title of the play should be hierarchically first and not the driving directions. There's a great poster that demonstrates the power of hierarchy. It uses scale and weight to show how hierarchy guides the eye around the composition. You will look at this first, this second, and this third. The problem, however, is that because of political and ideological or philosophical reasons, hierarchy has been abandoned or thought to be a bad thing. But just like any principle or good, it can be perverted. Remember Aristotle's great axiom that virtue is the mean between the extremes of excess and deficiency. So a false hierarchy can be either excessive hierarchy or deficient hierarchy. An excessive hierarchy would visually mean that the big or important things were too big and the small things were too small. And there can also be deficient hierarchy. And this is where everything is the same size, color, or weight. Just like you can have excessive political hierarchy, that would be totalitarianism, and deficient political hierarchy, communism. The common critique, however, is that any talk of hierarchy will inevitably be oppressive, the strong oppressing the weak, the wealthy oppressing the poor. But in the words of Thomas Aquinas, abusus non tollit usum, or abuse does not take away or cancel use. That is, just because some good thing is abused or misused, that does not mean that you should throw it away. No, you should use it properly. And the proper principle of hierarchy is very simple. things should be in the proper order. Of course, the next question is, what is the proper order? And the answer to that question largely depends on what the work is for. For instance, let's suppose you're designing a label for women's shampoo, and this shampoo is primarily for red-headed women. This would mean that the image of a red-headed woman should be hierarchically primary. Perhaps other hair colors may use it, say darker hair colors. And in that case, images of darker-haired women would be hierarchically second. Hierarchy is simply the proposition that some things are not equal. The problem is that when people hear the word equality, they think about one type of equality, ontological equality, the equality of worth or value. But there are many types of equality. There is mathematical or quantitative equality. The number 1 is not equal to the number 2, but 1 is not greater, ontologically more valuable than 2. There's also many types of qualitative equality. The red-headed woman is not equal to the blonde woman, but neither is ontologically superior. It might be better to just change our language because equality is so fraught with misunderstanding. Instead, we could talk about sameness and difference. 1 is not the same as 2, red hair is not the same as dark hair. There are also many types of hierarchies other than better and worse. You can have hierarchies in time, before and after, space, top to bottom, saturation of color, highly saturated or desaturated. So in a work of art, just because there is a hierarchy doesn't mean that there is an ontological hierarchy. The red-headed woman on the label is not more valuable than the darker-haired woman. She is hierarchically first because of the purpose of the work. So let's look at some examples of hierarchy in art and architecture. Here is Caravaggio's Sacrifice of Isaac. Caravaggio controls the hierarchy through luminance or brightness, contrast, size, leading lines, and expression. Isaac is hierarchically first with the largest quantity of space with the most luminous color. His skin tone, while similar to the angel, is brighter. Caravaggio also slices that light, drawing even more attention with the knife cutting the brightest section of the painting, a visual symbol of cutting or killing of Isaac himself. Light is cut with the darkness of the blade, just as life is about to be ended. He is hierarchically first because he is the one being sacrificed. Isaac is hierarchically first because he is the one being sacrificed. From Isaac, the leading line of the arms leads up to the angel, hierarchically second. The angel is hierarchically second because he's initiating the action, or the ceasing of action in this case. And the angel's finger and Abraham's shoulder guides us to Abraham, and then to the ram, and finally to the background. This is the order, the hierarchy, skillfully executed by Caravaggio. The visual hierarchy matches the importance of the subjects depicted in the painting, and allows for a peaceful journey around the whole composition. When there isn't a hierarchy in a composition, you feel confused, aimless, not sure where to look, endlessly questioning yourself if you've missed the point. You are unable to appreciate and understand it. Next, let's look at the great Hagia Sophia. Like many medieval churches, it has a cruciform layout, embodying in its form what Christians should embody in their life, the form of the cross. Isidore and Anthemius, the designers of the church, controlled hierarchy by elevation, volume, and axiality. That is, the central dome is the highest. It has the largest space out of all the sections, and all the lines of the architecture lead and converge in the central dome. The original painting on the ceiling of the central dome was the Christ Pantocrator, or Almighty. Thus, Christ, being the object of worship, is hierarchically primary. The hierarchy then moves down as you have cascading domes on each axis. There is also an axial hierarchy that begins when you enter the church, moving through the nave where the laity would partake in the divine liturgy, and finally to the apse containing the iconostasis, the altar, and the ark containing the sacrament. That is, the hierarchical importance is laid out axially as you move from the entrance to the apse. Indeed, Francis Ching, in what has become a canonical architecture book, Architecture, Form, Space, and Order, says that the principle of hierarchy implies that in most, if not all, architectural compositions, real differences exist among their forms and spaces. These differences reflect the degree of importance of these forms and spaces, as well as the functional, formal, and symbolic roles they play in the organization. The manner in which the functional or symbolic differences among a building's elements are revealed is critical to the establishment of a visible, hierarchical order among its forms and spaces. Like all aesthetic properties, they are necessary because they are grounded in God Himself. There is a hierarchy in God. Within God, there is a hierarchy of relation, the Father, then the Son, then the Holy Spirit. Not a hierarchy of value or an ontological value, but a hierarchy of relation. God is not an undifferentiated monad like Leibniz thought, but He is a diverse and ordered substantial relation of Father, Son, and Spirit. And this differentiation is not bare difference, but an ordered difference. The Father is logically, though not temporally, prior to the Son, because the Father, by His nature, begets the Son. The Son does not beget the Father. The historian Roger Olson says that there is no doubt in my mind that the great church as a whole, both East and West, including the magisterial Protestant reformers, believed in a hierarchy within the immanent Trinity. So God's very own hierarchical life is reflected in all His creation. And when a work of design has a good hierarchy, then there is a peaceful unity. And that peacefulness, the loving intermingling of ordered difference, says something deep and true about God. It communicates that God Himself is a loving and peaceful ordered difference, properly and beautifully ordered. Thank you so much for checking out the video this week. I really do appreciate it. Please check out the other videos in this series if you are interested in this topic of beauty and design. Leave me any questions. If you would like to support the channel, that would be ever so lovely. You can do so at patreon.com/thebibleisart. If you would like to get notices when I post new videos, I've got a sign up on my website, thebibleisart.com. And I'll see you later. Thanks.